Welcome to everybody joining us. Tara is unable to join us because they have a power shortage where she's living.
Oh my God, what?
A power shortage or power cut.
Oh my goodness, okay,
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, happy to see everybody, happy. So tell us what's this class today, and is it our last one of this session?
No,
what is it?
It's the third in
the third one.
The third one.
Okay, and we're still on, and we're on what?
Establishing a daily practice.
Okay. So, okay, good.
Would you like me to offer a mandala? Or...
I think you always like to do that, don't you? That's up to you to decide. That's the center doing an offering. So
that's what we are doing.
So you decide that. If you want to do it, you do it.
Thank you.
Good. So we think we're offering all the marvelous things of the world to the Buddha as a request for the teachings. That's the plan, okay?
Yes. Sashipaki Yukting Meto Trahamri Rablingji Nihidekyan Padi Sange Shingdu Mekte Obagi Rukunam Dashingla Terpaksho Jetsun Lama Dampakyenam Kecherki Kala Kiense Chutrinchi Jita Sampe Dulje Sin Mala Sabge Churki Chapa Baptu So Idam Gururatna Mandalakam Yatayami.
So imagine Buddha very happily receives our offering. And we think that we're going to, until I'm going to say it in English, in a just extended way, we think until we're enlightened, we're going to rely upon the Buddha, his teachings, and the Sangha community. And so by the virtuous karma we create, the seeds we plant in our mind by listening to these teachings, may we become a Buddha, no matter how long it takes, for the benefit of all suffering sentient beings. Sangye Charan, Soke Chognam La, Jancho Baru Dagni Kyabsu Chi, Dagi Chernyen Gipa Sonam Ki, Drola Penche Sangye Drupa Shog, Sangye Charan, Soke Chognam La, Jancho Baru Dagni Kyabsu Chi, Dagi Chernyen Gipa Sonam Ki, Drola Penche Sangye Drupa Shog. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Thank you, darling. All right, so now let's see what we talked about last week. I don't remember. Let's have a look. These notes that Tara kindly presented to us. I think these are the ones, 13. Maybe not. What's this one? Oh, these are the ones here. Okay. Well, maybe the 2 weeks. It's like the last 2 weeks, I'd say. Looks like the last 2 weeks. Well, that's 13th. So the last time, okay. I don't remember what we talked about. I think the main thing we talked about, I think really the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I think really the last 2 weeks, we've been looking at the bigger picture, the very typical Tibetan Buddhist approach to Buddhist practice. So I have to keep talking this way, okay? I mean, we can also, it's easy way. So an easy way to talk. So one way I did talk, and I'll say it again, you know, because we're creatures of habit and form, it really is helpful to us to have a formal structure. So we feel like we're doing something. You do something in the morning and you do something in the evening. You feel like you've achieved something, you know, and that's good. But if we don't have the big picture, then we lose the plot completely. And then that's why we give up, you know. And the other thing is we give up because we don't really have enthusiasm. And why we don't have enthusiasm, I mean, all the lamas say this, and it's so logical. There's nothing Buddhist about this. It's just logical. We know ourselves in our own lives, the things that we persevere with, the things that we make effort to do, that we have discipline, are the things that we know the benefits of. And who do you think the benefit is of? To you. Don't be sort of all noble. You know, you've got to see the benefits of something. If you don't know why you do something, I'm sure we talked about this. If you don't know why you do something, then of course you're going to give up. You'll be totally bored. Because if attachment doesn't get all excited, we get bored. So, and this is our trouble. This is why most people give up their practice, why most people lose the plot, forget what they're doing, and then 10 years later think, I better do my practice again, because we don't know why we are doing it, you know. And this is not necessarily easy. I mean, to have the really classic view that all the great practitioners have, who have got real bodhicitta and really understand emptiness and really every day are driven by this wish to become a Buddha. I mean, that's pretty unusual, you know, to be motivated to that degree is pretty incredible. So all we can do is use whatever tools we can to remain kind of enthusiastic. It's not easy for us, I tell you. I mean, most people don't have meditation experiences, don't get realizations, you know, nothing special happens. We feel like just we're plodding along. I mean, you know, at least when you go to the gym and you really go seriously, you can see the difference in 6 weeks. You've got more muscle tone, so it gives you enthusiasm to continue. So sometimes in our life, even with our spiritual practice and we're being serious, things might even get worse. And then we certainly think, well, I better give up. If I'm getting worse, why go, you know? So we've really got to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. I keep saying this all the time, and I think it's the main point. And then the other thing is, if you want to set up a daily practice with certain components in it, you know, it needs to know, there are certain components of a practice, and you need to know what those are, what the benefit of those is. If like you're doing yoga, if you want to set up a daily practice, you need to know what components you need in your daily practice. Anything's like this, music, anything at all. And then you have to be disciplined. And that's the difficult part, because it's not immediate. Results don't come immediately, you know. So what we've talked about so far, just looking at these course notes, I only looked in the first day of it, really, of these course notes by Kendall Magnuson, was the typical one, you know, setting up the preliminary practices, you know, the preliminary practices. So a typical Tibetan Buddhist practice would be you get up in the morning, you do 3 prostrations, you'd remember refuge or you remember something. I always like to think, you know, you start the day, your first thoughts will be Dharma. This is a really good way to start. This is how I try to advise people. The moment you wake up in the morning, you try to remember certain things. You remember you're impermanent. You remember you're still alive. You remember that's due to your virtuous karma, and you don't take it for granted. And you go, wow, amazing. My karmic petrol tank hasn't run out yet. I'm still alive. And then you think a thought, you take refuge, you do some kind of little thing that reminds you. Your very first thoughts would be Dharma, to remind you of what you're doing on this path, you know. Then the very first speech would be Dharma words. You speak the words of a prayer or something, and then you get out of bed. And if you've taken refuge, you're like a formal little Buddhist. But my feeling is the first physical action would be 3 prostrations. I mean, it's very meaningful. Some of you might not do prostrations, some of you might. And if you understand the meaning of a prostration, it's a very powerful practice in itself. You know, you do 3 prostrations, and whom you do it to would be the Buddha, or to your guru, your guru in your mind, you know. So your first thoughts, your first words, and your first actions. So we need this discipline because it reminds us, okay, we're saying I'm a Buddhist. I want to do some practice. I want to practice being a Buddhist. So then you've already got to understand what that means, people. You know, there's such an addiction in our culture, and I keep talking like this, but it's true. There's such an addiction in our culture that you're a Buddhist if you meditate. This is completely nonsense. It's completely meaningless to say that. It's naive to say that. You are a Buddhist, honestly, if you relate to the Buddhist teaching, you use them as your tools, but you actually become a Buddhist. You actually begin doing Buddhist practice when you learn to work on your mind. You learn to distinguish between delusions and virtues, and you lessen the virtues and grow the goodness. That literally is what being a Buddhist is. And that is your job from here to enlightenment. If you forget this, you think, oh, getting bliss is being a Buddhist, being mindful is being a Buddhist, saying mantras being Buddhist, doing prostrations being a Buddhist, taking refuge being a Buddhist, you know, wearing nuns' clothes as being a Buddhist. We lose the plot. We forget the point, you know. This is why I continually remind us of the etymology of the word Buddha in Sanskrit. The first syllable implies the eradication from your mind of all delusions. The second syllable implies the development to perfection of all your virtues. It's really simple. So that means that's being a Buddhist. So that tells you the job to be done. The job to be done is to lessen delusions and grow your virtues. So every practice you do must lead you to that. Every practice you do must enable you to do that. When we understand this, then it makes what practices we choose to do will be based on logic. Not someone, oh, I'm doing meditation, aren't I holy? I'm a Buddhist, I watch my breath for 10 minutes. We've got to get the point. I mean, it's just exactly the same. If you're learning to be, to be a tennis player, everything you do must help you learn to play tennis eventually. That's why the preliminary practices are so important. All those practices, like I mentioned, the preliminary practice, like, doing some prostrations, doing offering on the altar, taking refuge, generating bodhicitta, all these words, they are priming your mind. They're making your mind, they're things you do preliminary to doing the actual job of lessening delusions and growing virtue, So then you know what practices to do. You know what you need to do. You understand the function of these preliminary practices, So then you start first thing in the morning, you wake up in the morning, you think, I'm still alive, amazing. My petrol tank of karma, of virtuous karma hasn't run out yet. I'm still alive. Don't take it for granted. And then you think, I mustn't waste my life. Then your first words can be like a little prayer, like you take refuge, you renew your vows, whatever you like to do. Different people choose different things, And then the first action, physical action, the first actions of your mind, body, and speech. So you do 3 prostrations. That already is an amazing way. Already you've created so much virtue just by doing that. Then the next thing you do is you'd go to the toilet or whatever and wash your face, wash your hands. Then you would go straight to your altar where you have your representations of enlightened body, speech, and mind. That's the components of an altar. And an altar is just a nice place, not too low down, maybe not lower than your waist, certainly, that has images on it, an image of the Buddha, an image of your guru, or many Buddhas, or many gurus. It's up to you, representing the enlightened body. You have something like a text or a mantra representing enlightened speech. And you have a stupa, which represents enlightened mind. And then you would make offerings. Now, this is a big thing in the Tibetan Buddhists. It's one of the major preliminary practices. We've talked about this. I think I keep repeating the same thing every session, but I think I have to. I want to. Once we get the background clear, it's easy to choose the practices you want to do. And you've got to keep yourself fresh because we get bored. So you choose different practices because you know the purpose of them, So of course, if you've taken refuge formally and taken the 5 layperson's vows, you have certain commitments. You've agreed, you've done a contract with your teacher and the Buddha. You've agreed, you've shaken hands, and you've agreed to do certain things every day. You've agreed to do certain things every day. You don't want to break a contract, so you'd want to keep your commitments, as they say. So you commit to taking refuge 3 times in the morning and 3 times at night. You can do that when you first wake up. You can do that when you go to your altar and do your water bowls. You commit to make offerings every day. So again, I repeat, why do we want to make offerings? Well, I mean, even just to think of getting another future human rebirth, just for your own sake, you need good, delicious, rich, strong, intentional, non-killing karmic seeds in your bank vault. Best way to do that is to live in the vow of non-killing. That'll enable you to get a human body. And then you need a decent life. You need good conditions. You don't want to be born in an ugly, disgusting place where you can get nothing and get no job and spend 8 hours a day trying to find a bowl of rice. You do not want that. You want good conditions so you have the leisure and the luxury to be able to continue to practice. It's really logical. So you need masses of generosity karma for that one. That means giving things. You have to practice generosity, practice giving. This is a powerful practice. I can't stress it enough. And we have to consciously practice it. We think, oh, I'm generous. I give a seed to a bird and $1 to a homeless person. But it's got to be a very conscious, intentional practice. It's like the Mormons. You budget in a certain percentage of your money to the church every single month. That's the way to make something happen. You budget it into your life. So giving is a tremendously powerful practice. Well, here, of course, we're talking about giving to the holy beings, giving to the 3 jewels. And like I think I talked one time, we often don't see the reason for that. Well, the Buddha doesn't need a bowl of rice. The Buddha doesn't need a bowl of water. What are you talking about? Well, it's not to do with the Buddha. It's to do with you. We need the karma of generosity. We need to cultivate the wish to practice giving. So a marvelous way to practice this is the discipline of making offerings every day to the Buddha on your altar. I mean, it's really hard because, I mean, you know, a friend of mine recently, he's really devoted. He said, I practiced it for a whole year, really, and then I gave up. Because we forget. I mean, you see a boring old statue, you think, oh, there's the Buddha, how nice, you know. What's he want with a bowl of water? And you start getting busy and you forget about it. And then your empty bowls sitting on the altar going rotten. I mean, that's so inauspicious, you know, because you're offering nothing as well. You've got empty bowls because the water's run out after months of sitting there. And you just don't think about it any longer. So we've got to cultivate these thoughts. They don't come naturally to us. We think, oh yeah, I give to poor people, or I give to my mother, I give to, you know, children. We do, but this is an amazing practice. And it's one of your commitments if you've taken refuge. You commit to offer to the three jewels. And who is the beneficiary? You. Do not forget this. It's a practice. It's a practice for you. You do it for you. You practice it for you. We've got to get used to that. It's an amazingly powerful practice, and it's a great discipline. So this is where, if you have a relationship with a lama, a teacher, a mentor, a spiritual mentor, whatever, this is how you can cultivate that relationship in your own mind by imagining that statue on your altar, the statue behind me here, for example, that's in my house in Santa Fe. And I have several altars. I have at least 3. And I spend like an hour in the morning. I'm just telling you, every morning I get up. My first thing I do is I do what I told you. I go, pee and clean my hands. And then I go straight to my altars. I empty the water bowls from the day before. And then first I clean the place, getting prepared to invite the Buddhas to come. I sweep the floor. As I said, His Holiness even has a little broom. These are all the preliminary practices. And then I empty all the water bowls. So I've got 3 sets, three altars with water bowls on, 3, whole sets. So I empty all those, throw the water in a clean place. And then I get my jug and then I fill it up and I do, again, now I make offerings on those 3 altars. So the whole thing takes me about an hour. But this is my first practice in the morning. And I love to do it, but I've had to be disciplined. But I loved it. Yes, it's a ritual, but rituals have meaning. And it's me creating merit of offering to the Buddha images who I see as my Lama. So then your heart gets devoted. And I want to offer to my Lamas. I wish my Lamas were right there and I could offer to their physical body, but I instead offer to the images as my Lama. So you've got to cultivate, you've got to be disciplined. So slowly after all these years, I'm beginning to see the benefit of this. And I like this practice very, very much, Love to do this practice every day because it's a discipline because it forces us to not just do what I want. The first thing we do is we go we pee out last night's coffee and we go put in this morning's coffee. The first thing we think of is ourselves. It's automatic, especially in the morning when you're tired and bored, you've got to get my cup of tea, got to get my cup of coffee. And maybe later on in the daytime or next week or next month, you might make an offering on your altar. This is very common. So we have to train our mind. And then we have to see the benefit of doing this practice. So, it might be difficult. Like I talked last week, there was a person who contacted me and doesn't want to know about all these rituals. And I understand that. I'm not trying to force. I'm just saying where I'm coming from. And if it does, but if it doesn't make sense, don't feel bad like you're a naughty Buddhist. You don't have to take all this advice. I'm just telling you, this is the Tibetan Buddhist style, And so anybody, and also people, these preliminary practices, like in our tradition, the Tibetan Buddhists, they have a certain set of offering, a set of these preliminaries where you do 100,000 of each. People often do years of retreat doing 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 water bowls, 100,000 this, 100,000 that. These are the preliminary practices, priming your mind, ready to go and do your long intensive retreat. So people all say there's an incredible meaning, benefit when you're doing many, many, many water bowls, offering water, something quite subtle for the mind, But basically, it's the practice of generosity, of giving. And because of the power of the object, as I said, I think I told you, in general, the main benefit, the main factor that makes our action of generosity useful, beneficial karma, is the power of our motivation. But when you're offering to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the object of our offering, they say it like this, is so powerful. Even without motivation, there's virtuous karma there. So, so for oneself, it's a very rich, delicious practice. For oneself, for one's own benefit, it is a very delicious, rich practice. And then remember, and again, we have to be reminded continuously about this. When we practice something, we want to see the benefit immediately. So if you go practice your piano, you want to see that you did it a little bit better and you hear the music coming a little bit better than yesterday. But unfortunately, it takes a longer time to see the benefits of practice. You will be able to see the benefit of doing things. You'll see a shift in your mind, but the real benefit is the karma you create for long term. It's like, I mean, we get this when we're growing a garden. You can go out into your garden. It looks a complete mess. You've got to dig up all the weeds. It looks a mess. You don't see a pretty garden at all, but you come back into your house from one day of pulling out weeds, and it might even look worse than it did yesterday, but you know the long-term benefit. You don't judge that you did a good day in the garden because it looks better. It might even look worse, but you're digging up the weeds so you can now grow the flowers, and then you still have to wait for the flowers. You're going to wait for weeks and maybe months before flowers and vegetables come. So we are prepared to have long-term view when it comes to growing a garden. Well, this is what we have to understand here. There are immediate benefits, but the real benefits are long-term, next life, future lives. We've got to have that confidence. That's the way karma works. Now, in the normal world, that is not the view. Of course, it's not. This is a typical Buddhist view. But if you know, most people would do meditation and want to feel better now. And that's nothing wrong, but it's only just now. If you know you don't have the long-term view, then you're not, I mean, that's the Buddhist approach. So you've got to think about this and have confidence. So when you come in from the garden, you don't look back behind you and look at the garden and say, oh, I did a good job today because you see flowers growing. No, you did a good job today because the dirt's coming out. It looks even worse. But you know you judge it because you know you're pulling out the weeds. We've got to have that view with karma, with our practice as well. So you do lots of practices that have got the long-term benefit, but also can bring immediate benefit. Of course they can. But the long-term is the real one. You're trying to develop yourself into a Buddha, for God's sake. That's definitely long-term. So you get up in the morning, you do your offerings. And that's up to you how many altars you have. You can have one bowl of water. You can have 7. You can do one little 7 water bowl offerings. You can do lots. I've got 3. I'm not trying to show off. I'm just telling you, okay? Because I've got a little house now. First time in my life. First time for, I don't know, 12, 15 years. I've had a place of my own easily. Yeah, so I've got 3 little altars. Anyway, never mind. I'm just telling you. Then I will sit down and do my practice. So, you know, and then you can have many sessions in the day if you like. I do several sessions a day. I divide my practice up in the day. So I do my first things in the morning. I do my offerings. Already that's a powerful practice. I'm so happy about doing that. Then I do my prostrations. Next one, I've got a commitment from my lamas to do prostrations morning and night until I die. That's what I do. I do my prostrations. I used to do a lot, but now I'm bone lazy and old. So I just do a few, but I still do it, okay? I used to do 200 every morning. Not too much detail. It got so hot and everything, I would have almost no clothes on. I got really fast. Then I have a shower. I'd have to because I was smelly. But now if I did 200, I'd collapse and die. So I do less. But I still do long prostrations. So then I sit down and then I do my meditation. So these are the preliminaries. And I like the order and I like the ritual of it. I like the order of it, you know. And I get into that. And it's rare that I would do anything first before I did this. If I have to get a flight, even at 4 in the morning, I'd still do some offering first before I go to the airport, you know. I tell you, you've got to discipline yourself. And then eventually you start to get the habit. You program yourself. We all know about habits. And then you learn to even enjoy doing it. It's not a burden any longer, you know. But you've got to think the right way about it. Because I have confidence in this practice of offerings, confidence in the karma of it. And then I'll do my practice and my different practices. So you can start. So your practice, if you just do one session in the morning, you know, you've made your offerings on the altar. That's a commitment. You've done your 3 prostrations. Now you'd sit down maybe, and depends on the person. Some people like to do a bit of mindfulness meditation first. Some people will take refuge first. Some people will recite the Heart Sutra first. Some people you try different things, but you need to have certain components in your practice, especially if you've taken refuge, because you want to tick the boxes with your, with your commitments. So you want to make sure you take refuge. And there's all kinds of those prayers you can take refuge. You can do longer ones, you can do shorter ones. so that keeps your commitment. You've done your offerings, that keeps your commitment. Then you can do different practices. You know, you can do some, like, you know, if you've done a Tara meditation or a Chen raising meditation or a Shakyamuni Buddha meditation, or you can do the 9-round breathing meditation, or you can read a book and do a contemplation meditation. There's different things you can do. And if you, in order to not just get, you know, bored and just do it without thinking, it's good to do different things every day. And then you do some dedication prayers, and then you motivate. Especially you have a bodhicitta motivation. Why am I doing this? So I can become a Buddha, so I can become sentient beings. And then you'll make some decisions to yourself, I think, before you hop up off your cushion or your chair, to, you know what you're going to do that day. You know, you're going to go visit your old grandma who you fight with. So you're going to make a decision to watch your mouth like a hawk. You got to go to work. You got to drive the car. So you remind yourself, I'm going to watch my body and speech today. Don't harm sentient beings. I'm going to watch my mind. You decide these things, and then you get up and you lead your life. And then throughout the day, you committed to offer the first mouthful of your food and drink. That's why you can do a little prayer that reminds you, and to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. And you can do a little prayer there, and it's really excellent practice to offer your first mouthful, because it counteracts attachment. You're becoming conscious, you're becoming aware, you're noticing your mind, you know. So you offer your first mouthful of drink, and so on like that, to the 3 jewels. You're committed to try and be nice to sentient beings, at least don't harm them. And then at the end of the day, you finish with the purification practice. And usually, the 4 opponent powers and variations of that. You can get short versions, longer versions. You can do it very quickly, you can do it longer. But as Lama Zopa says, we're insane not to do that practice every day. And when you understand the logic of it, how purifying karma is the most amazing practice to do every day. When you understand the logic of it, you'd be sad not to do the practice. You'd feel like you've missed out on something, you know. Because every second of the day, you're creating karma. And until we've got realizations, there's going to be negative karma. It's inevitable, as well as positive, of course. And so we want to purify at the end of the day, clean up our act. And then, as Lama Yeshe says, you go to bed with a happy mind, and one day closer to death. You get up next morning, you remember impermanence, and off you go again. Then as you progress in your practice, you might then start to take the bodhisattva vows, and you add some more components to your practice. Then you might take a tantric empowerment and you add some more components to your practice. Then you might take a highest yoga tantric empowerment and you get the tantric vows. Then you got more components to your practice. You build it up. You've got this infrastructure morning and night, and you build pieces into it as you progress in your practice. This is how you do it. This is broad advice, okay? So now I need you to ask me some questions. I can be specific in them. Ask me some questions.
Please raise your hand or write questions in the chat.
I think I'm trying to give the broad picture. Once you've got the big picture, it's easy to find the pieces, you know, and to know the meaning of them, why you're doing it long term as well as the short term.
And Tara has arrived, so that's nice.
Very good. But I really want some questions. I need some questions.
Allow me to ask the first question.
Good,
then, I've heard that Rinpoche is saying that the 3 lower realms are the natural habitat for sentient beings, meaning being in a human world, in a human body. It's really rare. And today we did the meditation on precious human rebirth. So it sounds like this is the chance for me to develop in this life, because who knows when I will ever get the chance again. Can you comment on this one?
Well, I think, first of all, most Western people don't much even like thinking about karma and reincarnation, full stop, period. So this is where the long term comes in. And that really, for most of us, even Buddhists who are so devoted, is quite abstract. The idea that every second of your practice, every seed you're planting when you do your practice, these seeds will not ripen until future lives. That's the thing that's really hard to hear for us. Most things we do in this life, this is what we have to try and understand. From the second we are born, the second we are conceived in our mother's womb, we are already programmed with billions of karmic seeds. 1, that even got us to the human mummy in the first place. 2, our personality, the personality traits we are born with, they are the ripening of a whole bunch of karmic seeds that we planted, could have been 57 lives ago. So that's the personality that we will grow into in this life. It's not just some random event, and you're not the product of your mother and father's personality. No way in the world. You might share various qualities, but yours is coming from your past seeds that you have planted and that will ripen in this life. So you're born with what you created. So that's from countless past lives ago. You wake up in this life, let's say, and you don't have any wish to kill. This is like a miracle. It's because you've practiced non-killing in vows. You've kept vows of non-killing, like a miracle. If you wake up with reasonable, in this life, and you show as you get older, you've got quite good ethics. You don't want to kill or lie or steal. This is because you've lived in vows in the past. This is like an amazing thing to recognize, that this is the result of your past virtue. A past life, you've lived in vows. That's why you wake up in this life, and as a child, you don't want to kill. You don't think to lie. You don't think to steal. It's not just good luck. It's not because your mummy's nice. It's because you have lived in vows in a previous life that have programmed your mind really powerfully in virtuous ethics. This is like a miracle. Then the karmic seeds that ripen. So then, okay, then the next lot of karmic seeds that are going to ripen in this life as you live your life are all the way you're seen and treated by other people, the people you meet, how they see you, the bosses you get, the banks who give you credit, the people who punch you in the nose, the animals that bite you, the people who divorce you, the sisters who are kind to you, all the people you meet in this life, and the way you're seen and treated by them. These are the fruit of past karmic seeds as well, not directly from things you've done in this life. This really takes us time in the West to understand this, because we're so obsessed with me now, That's all from past karma. Then the third way your past karmic seeds are going to ripen in this life is your environmental karma, which is very much to do with your health. If you're weak and sickly and always have things wrong, and you get sick easily, and you don't get nourished, you've got allergies, and the weather harms you, and the water harms you, and the earth harms you, and the earth is disgusting and dirty. This is from 1,000 lifetimes ago. It's not good luck or bad luck. If you're healthy and strong and can eat anything, it's due to your virtuous karma. So this is the very first thing to start thinking about if we study karma, that what you come into in this life with is what you have planted in your mind from your hard work at good or bad things. This is already the first thing to think about. And then, as all the lamas will tell us, and as Lars is indicating, and as we can do our market research and we can prove it, to get a reasonable human life with all the conditions, which means access to virtue, which is the big miracle, access to good conditions because of your generosity, nice people, nice things, nice conditions, and the miracle of having the wish to practice a spiritual path. If you look at the human realm alone, the 7 billion, you're going to find, I'm not talking Buddhist here, I'm just talking people who've got good lives, good conditions, good tendencies, wish to practice virtue, want to practice a spiritual path, don't want to kill and steal and lie. You're going to find we are one of the 0.001% of this human planet. This is absolutely stupendous. This is unbelievable. And who created it? We did. From what? Living in virtue, practicing a spiritual path. See, this is the view of karma. This is telling us why we are who we are already. So that tells us it's a rare thing. Then you look at the entirety of all the animal realm, forget the hungry ghosts and the hell beings and the gods, forget all the ones we can't see. We can see there are probably 7 billion mosquitoes under one tree in one summer evening. So it's clear, if we take the Buddhist view, that there are billions upon trillions upon billions upon trillions of creatures in the animal realm who don't have good conditions. I remember reading 25 years ago in the science pages in the New York Times that they were discovering billions of species of creatures in the depth of the ocean where no one believed you could even exist. These creatures piled on top of each other in the absolute darkness. Billions of species These are all called animals, and they're all in call for the Buddha, what's called the animal realms. And that's the real animal realms. It's like the giraffes and the dogs on the surface of the earth. They're like the gods of the animal realms. That's the real suffering of the animal realms, the depth of utter darkness, of utter ignorance. And the billions and billions and billions of beings live like this. So if every one of them is experiencing the fruit of their past karma, then I think it's an obvious deduction that it's kind of hard to get a decent human birth. This is just not using emotion. It's not using, it's based on the Buddha's analysis of karma. If we're listening to the Buddha's analysis, we want to take that view as our hypothesis for the world, then that's the thinking we will do. And then that's the conclusion. So then the conclusion from this is, wow, I must have practiced masses of virtue in the past. Do I want this continuously? Yes, I do. Do I want this when I die? Yes, I do. Conclusion, I'd better start practicing. That's my comment, Lars.
Thank you very well. Thank you.
I mean, the Buddhist view is such a different view. I mean, that's why if we're going to study it deeply, and if we want to be serious Buddhists, then we need to study it deeply. I'm not saying you have to be a Buddhist. Keep remembering, you don't have to be. You don't have to think of any of these things. But I'm only saying this is a big picture point of view. So it takes time to take it on board this view and to do our logical deductions based on this view. It takes us time, you know. Any other questions?
Ariella, you wrote me a private message, but I think Venerable just replied to that question as well. Or do you wish to ask the question, Ariella?
What's the question? Tell me the question, please.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Who's asking? Who is it? Where are you? I want to find you. Hello, darling. Hello, Ariella. Hello.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. It's in regards to the notes, Tara's notes from March 24th, the fully enlightened mind. Out of all the mind possessors, humans are only a small percentage. That all minds are not physical. Can you elaborate a little bit more on mind possessors, please?
Okay.
It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the word. That's a literal translation of the Tibetan term that we usually in English say sentient being. So often in the world, like a Christian world or a Muslim world or a Hindu world, we talk about souls, don't we? We talk about souls and spirits, and we're usually meaning humans have a soul. We don't tend to think that animals have a soul, or a dog has a soul, or an ant has a soul. Do you understand? So the Buddhist view is a broader one that's automatically including every living being. And so often a living being or sentient being, or literally this term mind possessor, that humans, like I'm indicating now, we can see maybe 7 billion humans, but we can see if we just look at even the animal realm, there are billions and trillions of beings, aren't there? Would you agree with that? There are, aren't there? They're all sentient beings. They've all got Buddha nature. They've all had countless past lives. And they all are, just like us, experiencing the fruits of their own past actions. So the Buddhist view very much is that each of us creates our own self, that we each life, we ripe, you know, the seeds that ripen are the seeds that we have planted. So we got a human body, an ant got an ant body, dogs, lions, bugs, fish, they've all got those bodies due to their past karma. And then their lives are the ripening of their other karmic seeds. All sentient beings are like that. So there are billions and billions and billions of mind possessors. And this natural law of karma is the Buddhist explanation of who we are and why we are who we are. Do you understand, darling? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much.
Good,
Thank
Ariella, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Lou. Okay, thank you. Yes, Lou.
Venerable Bina, when I make, whoops, I hit the wrong thing. When I make my meal offering, the refuge field I make my meal offering to is different than the merit field that I make my dedications to. Is that a problem, or are they supposed to be different?
You can do what you like. You can do what you
Okay.
like, Lou. You can offer you can visualize whoever you want, and you can imagine the more manifestation of the Buddha, and you offer. So whatever you like, you just be creative as you wish.
Thank you, Venerable Bina.
Okay, all right. Who else? Someone else, questions. I want questions, people. I need questions. about practice, about daily practice. Yes, Barbara.
Thank you, Venerable Rabina.
Good
This,
job.
this question is based really on the question that Lou asked.
Mhm.
I'm confused about refuge field, merit field,
I
Buddha
understand.
field.
I understand.
If you
Okay.
could talk-
Absolutely. So in all the different practices, I mean, all the different, all the different practices, they're set up around a certain Buddha image, and therefore a certain kind of group of lineage, merit field. This term merit field is very sweet, it's rather cute. The field is meaning, okay, is the field in which we sow seeds that create merit for us. So one, for example, there would be a practice of, for example, we do this is very much coming, it's very much coming from from a tantric approach too. There's not all that, but I mean, let's just keep it simple. Basically, if you're studying music, I always like to use simple examples, and my mother was, my mother was my music teacher, and I'm going to be play a piece of Bach piano. If we're really doing it seriously, like as if we were Buddhists, she would then show me the merit field, and she'd have Bach in the middle, then all the different lineage knowledge holders of Bach's music up until the present, up until my teacher. That's what this merit field is. It's all the different Buddhas in that area, and then all the lamas up until the present, all of whom are tracking themselves back to that Buddha. Do you understand my point? So every practice has their own particular visualization of a certain field of merit. Does that make sense? The general idea. So, for example, if you've ever participated at Thupten Nobu Ling in the Lama Chöpa, Guru Puja, that's from Tantra. And then you start off by taking refuge. So we visualize in middle is Buddha, and then all the other Buddhas around. There's Manjushri this side, and there's the one that side. Then there's all the lamas since that person. There's all the protectors. There's a whole group of all these different beings, especially the physical, also the actual people as well as the Buddhas. And each different practice has a different one. So how is it coming into your practice without being too personal about your practice? Barbara.
You're asking me how it's coming into my
Yes,
practice?
so give an example. I don't want to give your practice away, but for example, you mean you've got a merit, you've been visualizing Shakyamuni Buddha surrounded by certain beings, or what?
I usually do just individual Buddhas. I don't do a field.
No, that's right. So this is often the choice. If we're really kind of elaborate practitioners, we'd learn and practice all the different Buddhas in the merit field. Or you simply visualize one, Shakyamuni, imagining he is the embodiment of all the so-called merit field. It's a very elaborate, it's very traditional, and it's got great meaning. And most of us skip it, Most of us, even if we see a picture of, we'll just, oh yeah, there's the merit field, and we won't be taking it very seriously. But as we progress, we might do that. But it's all the different lineages going back, tracking back. Do you understand? Each one is quite different and quite elaborate. So you just get a general feeling of, depending on what the practice is, you'd imagine all the holy beings are there embodied in Shakyamuni. Do you understand? That's good enough.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you.
Good. Yes, who else is there? General things about practice, please, because I know I haven't really.
Ross, did you have a question?
Where are you? Who? Roz. Talk to me.
I did, but I feel like it's probably a question that doesn't have an answer. So I put my hand down again, but I'll ask now.
There's no such thing, sweetheart, as a question doesn't have an answer. That's not a possibility.
Is it possible that we could practice really hard in this life and create good karma, but then in the next life, some really bad seeds get triggered instead of, we've got so much karma.
I understand.
How do we know that this will lead to a good rebirth next time?
We've got to realize the law of karma is a natural law. Buddhists tell us it's a natural law, right? You understand that, don't you? And that no one's there judging. There's no judge. There's no concept. So like botany, every seed you plant will bring a fruit, right? That's logical. Would you agree with that? That if you know, so if you know the character of the seed, then you can guarantee if you nourish it properly, that will grow as a rose. It'll grow as an oak tree. That's the logic of karma. Karma's like that. So every action that's called virtuous can only ripen as happiness. It can only ripen as a positive tendency. It can only ripen as a positive experience. It can only ripen as a happy rebirth, and it can only ripen as a happy environmental result. There's no other choice. It can only ripen as happiness. Everything you do now that's labeled negative can only ripen as a suffering tendency, can only ripen as a suffering experience. This is the logic of karma. So what's the question? Given that, what's the question?
Given that, how do you know which seeds are going to create your next life? I could have done really terrible things in the past.
Of course, we've got billions of karmic seeds in the past. We've got billions. So you nourish the good ones, and you practice this life, practicing virtue, living in vows, and so that when you die peacefully. And then if you die peacefully, then that'll trigger a virtuous karmic seed, and you'll get another decent human mother. And if you've lived in vows, you'll wake up in the next life with no thought to kill or steal or lie, and you've practiced generosity, you'll have good things. Right. It doesn't mean that other things mightn't ripen as well. But all we can do is try to understand it's a natural law. And if something is a natural law, we need to learn the law, don't we? Yeah. I mean, that's the general answer. It's not trying to be tricky, but we have to learn the law. So obviously, the more, I mean, you know yourself, if you're a brilliant botanist, a brilliant gardener, and you can show me an acre of ground and I see nothing there, but you know botany so well that you can definitely tell me confidently what it will look like in 10 years. Yeah. That's possible. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
If you're a really good builder and an engineer and an architect, you can show me a perfect plan of a brilliant house, and you can be confident in 3 years' time it will be exactly as you planned it. Yeah. So interestingly, you see, in our physical world, we totally have confidence in these laws, don't we? Well, that's the kind of confidence we have to have with karma, darling. Okay. Do you understand me?
Yes, I do.
I mean, what else can we do?
Exactly. That's what
confidence, and except do everything very well and create as much virtue as we can. It's in our hands, it's up to us. It's kind of such a different view, because we're used to either God will punish us or reward us, and we hope that God will see we've been a nice girl and we cross our fingers. You understand? Or if you're a materialist, you'll just turn into dust, so it won't matter. So we've got to decide which view we take, if these things occur to us. So the more we understand the natural law of karma, the more we'll try and take it seriously, and then learn the most skillful ways to get the best garden, to create the best garden. That's all we can say. You can't say more. Do you understand, darling?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Who else, people? Come on, I want some questions about practice. Who put their hand up? There's Carol. Hello, darling. Yes, Carol.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you, everyone. Hello, darlings. When it comes to mantra, the Sanskrit has a particular power to it, doesn't it? The Sanskrit mantras have a power.
That's what they say. All the lamas would say, all the practitioners would say that. Yes, they would say that Sanskrit has a great power. They say
great.
Yes.
When it comes to the four immeasurables, and we say how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, is it permissible to say how wonderful it will be when? Can I change it?
No, why should you? Why would you want to change it?
Because it gets me into the
You always want to stick your nose in the practice and change it a bit. That's a very fascinating quality you have. But
arrogant.
But it's not a question of if, it's just a subjunctive. It's really saying how marvelous that sentient beings will. It's not saying if as if it's doubtful. It's not like that. You're hearing it too literally. It's just a way of saying how wonderful it would be that sentient beings will, that they will be living in equanimity. I mean, not when even. It's just the fact. It's more the subjunctive meaning rather than if. Not sure they will, but not like that.
Thank you. I understand.
But maybe it's how wonderful it will be that all sentient beings will abide in equanimity. Something like that, darling.
Yes.
This is translation, I think. But the meaning is not kind of doubtful.
Yeah.
But the real one is then when you say, if you do the longer version, I will make this happen. That's the brave attitude of the Bodhisattva. Do you understand?
Thank you.
The essence of it, the brave attitude of the Bodhisattva. That if it's not me who will do it, who will? That's the real one, Carol. Do you understand?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. Michelle. Yes, Michelle.
So I'm trying to incorporate prostrations, more prostrations into my practice.
Okay.
Could you maybe explain a little bit the practice of the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, I'm really not very educated on that. I can certainly I mean, again, this is really kind of ancient practice, and the Tibetans love this practice. I mean, it's from the sutras. It's a sutra. I remember being in a Vietnamese temple, and they recited it. They didn't do the prostrations at the same time. They recite this 30, the 35 names of these different Buddhas. It's said to be. I mean, Lama Zopa is the one who waxes lyrical about these practices. So I think what I can do, I'm about to send it to somebody else as well. Actually, Jeffifer. I was going to send it to Jeffifer. So I'll send it to you as well. Maybe I can put it into a chat box. I'll ask Lars or Tara to make it available to you. I can, it's Lama Zopa commentary on it. So it's just, he talks about the amazingness of prostrations, how extraordinary they are, how powerful it is, and how wonderful to do it. I can send you something like that. I'll look for some documents and put those into the chat box, and you can get it from there. How about that?
Yeah, thank you.
But in general, let me talk about prostrations though, just in general. See, again, it's one of those practices. Certainly it's a preliminary practice. In the sense that it's a way you prime your mind to get yourself ready to really create virtue, to really get some realizations, to really realize emptiness, and so on and so forth. So it's a very powerful practice because you're using your body and your speech and your mind. And that's a rare thing. Mostly we think of spiritual practice as just being the mind, but we're purifying the body and the speech as well as the mind. So the real benefit, Lama Zopa said, again, is this is the business of the power of the object. Like I mentioned about making offerings to the Buddhas. And again, this is, if you're not going to hear this except in, I think, in a Tibetan Buddhist context. You go to a Thai temple, a Zen temple, I don't think you're going to hear this approach. It's very, very coming from the Vajrayana approach. And it's the strength, the power of any of the practices that we do, the benefit to us of the karma we create, doing practices that relate to the Buddhas, that bring the Buddhas into the mix. So making offerings to the Buddhas, doing prostrations to the Buddhas, that's one thing. Then the other thing, the powerful one, as I mentioned, is we've created negative karma with countless bodies as far as Buddha is concerned. We've done countless actions with our bodies based on eating food, having sex, stealing. I mean, even if we just do ordinary things, even if we just follow attachment, we're misusing our bodies all the time, harming ourselves, and we're using our bodies to harm others. We don't realize it half the time, and we're killing so many creatures with our bodies, even not intentionally. And so to do a practice where you make effort with your body is very powerful. And the other obvious, it seems to be a fairly overt, fairly evident meaning of prostrations. I mean, it's very good for arrogance and pride, to put yourself completely, lay yourself totally on the ground. It's kind of amazing, really. And it takes great effort to do it, I promise you. I know when I first met Lama Yeshe, you could see immediately I needed a practice on my pride. And he told me to do prostrations. I did the 35 Buddhas. He told me the first thing I ever told me to do was that. He said, good physical yoga, dear. And it's true, it really is, I tell you. If you do them properly and don't hurt your back, I mean, I can tell you some facts about that too. If you're going to do lots of prostrations, you've got to do them. I mean, we really can hurt your lower back. So if you haven't got a strong upper, this is not to do with the merit of it, okay? This is just practical. But I've really found this. If you put a lot of pressure, when you do long prostrations, if you put a lot of pressure when you get back up on your lower back, then you really will hurt your body. So you really got to do the prostrations, so you build up your pecs, these muscles here. But when you go down, you're supposed to slide when you do it. You don't put your hands down. You don't do two movements. When you go down with your hand, you should do one continuous movement and you slide all the way. But when you do that, it can really, again, put pressure on your lower back. So you got to make sure, and it can also hurt your knees. So if you go down and you keep, it's like almost like doing those yoga exercises where you strengthen your upper body. You put pressure on your upper body, and then you put your body goes down smoothly, and your knees touch the ground smoothly in a long line, not with the knees whacking down on the ground first. I can't. Maybe I should do it to show you. I'll send a video.
Oh.
Then it's really good for your body, and you get stronger, and you can do more prostrations more quickly. It's very helpful. It doesn't exhaust you so much. Maybe I can do one. I'll do a video and try and do a picture of it.
Yeah. So basically, if I want to do, I can just do more of them. So I don't need to do the 35 Buddha practice. I can just.
No, I think the 35 Buddhas is just a marvelous practice to do. Of course, you don't have to do that, but it's a marvelous practice to do, and you're combining the virtue of, and Lama Zopa says the main benefit of this practice even is not even the body, but is the actual saying of the names of these Buddhas. Just saying the names is said to be marvelous. So I'm going to find a document with Lama Zopa's teachings in it, and also explanations of how you do, and the different reasons why this and why that, and the name of all the different Buddhas. And I'll give that to Lars or to Tara, and they can put it on in the chat box. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, Juhi. How are you?
Hi, Venerable. It's a part daily practice question, part a guru connection question. So I've noticed lately in the last couple of weeks that I'm having my visualizations during the morning practice is getting vivid, especially when I visualize Shakyamuni or Medicine Buddha, especially those two. And I'm seeing the Dalai Lama's face there a lot.
Okay, that's wonderful. How blessed.
Does that mean anything? Is it significant?
It means you've got a karmic connection with His Holiness. I mean, it's obvious. It's marvelous. It's wonderful. It's very nice. That's very excellent, darling. Should give you great enthusiasm.
It did. It made me feel happy. There was a little bit of an emotional turmoil with one of my sons who's stubborn, and I felt bad because I yelled at him. The next morning, I was having a little bit of an emotional meltdown, and I literally felt that the Dalai Lama was reaching out and saying, "You're still a good mother. Don't worry about it."
Well done.
And I was like shocked out of I'm like, what? I literally felt that during the next morning practice.
That's a real nice, that's very good, darling. You hold on to that. It's wonderful.
Okay.
Very nice. Wonderful.
So that was it.
Very good, darling. Thank you. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Delighted. Be delighted. And the more you visualize, the more it will give us pleasure. Of course it will.
Yes. Yes, it does. It does.
Well done, darling. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Who else is there?
Elena has a question.
Yes.
Message in the box.
Yes.
Hello, Venerable. Hi. Thank you for teaching.
Hello, Elena, darling. Talk to me.
I have to be honest, I don't use the mala much. I have one. And I'm not sure if we talked about the last weeks, but I would like to know a little bit more how I can integrate it into my daily life, do's and don'ts.
It's a calculator, darling.
Sorry?
It's a calculator.
Okay.
It's a calculator.
Yeah, it's like in
count your mantras. You can do any method you like to count your mantras. It doesn't matter.
But is it something that it's do's and don'ts that you are not allowed to wear it here, or how to treat it?
Listen, I mean, okay, I hear what you're saying. I understand. Okay. A mala is a series of beads, usually 108 on some string, that you use to count your mantras if you need, because the way they measure, you get a practice, and it's often measured in numbers. So, if you want to do, like, you're going to do a retreat and you're going to do 100,000 mantras, you need your mala, and then you count them. Or you can do it like you've got to do 21, so you count them. But often too, people, if you can imagine, maybe if you're doing lots and lots of mantras on it, and you can build up some energy, people use them for healing, this kind of thing. But the general approach to it is it's not jewelry. Often we wear them, we have we might wear them like it's jewelry. You don't treat it like jewelry. That's the attitude towards it. It's simply a thing you use to count your mantra. And it can be, and traditionally you might have one mala for wrathful mantras, and one mala for peaceful mantras, and one mala that no one else sees because it's used for your secret mantras. You can have all that if you like. So you can give it great meaning. So you treat it as a tool for your practice, darling. You don't need to use one at all. You do not need to use one.
No. I knew it was like a calculate, like the rosary
Yeah,
in the
That's right,
Christian.
precisely. So you can argue it could build up energy. Of course it could. It would.
Yeah.
Say lots of mantras on it. For some holy beings have their malas. I'm sure they're very powerful. They can heal with them. I'm sure that's the approach to it.
And if I wear it, could I wear it like under that it's not so visible as a jewelry, that if I feel like I want to wear it, or is it?
But you wouldn't wear it as jewelry.
Okay. So it's,
I mean, traditionally, you notice Tibetans would wear it on their wrist.
Okay.
As a convenience, you know, but I know we can often get vain about it and treat it like jewelry, but it's important when you think about it. It's just convenient to keep it on your wrist. Some people would always keep it hidden by putting it around their neck and putting it under their shirt, you know. That would be good to do. So you can feel like protected. You can get blessings from it. If it's built up some energy from saying lots of mantras on it, you can treat it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And if you've had your Lama bless it, then it makes, you know, it gets has a meaning for us. Blessed. Yes. Good job. Yes. Hello there. Who's there? Amjad. Talk to me.
Hi, Venerable. Thank you for today. I was just wondering, having done my big session of daily practice in the morning, I'd like to take this practice into the day. So every time I'm doing a good deed, what is there something that you'd recommend to think, do, say, or visualize?
I understand. Well, okay, so you practice in the morning and say have you taken refuge formally and things like that? Yeah.
No.
Okay, so you do something in the morning. So you do something with your body, your speech, your mind. Maybe you do 3 prostrations. Maybe you make offerings. You take refuge. You do all this. You do something in the morning that you like to do. Then the way to think throughout the day, if you're trying to be a Buddhist, I mean, you like the Buddhist view, right? You're trying to have the Buddhist view, right? Then you'd obviously how you put it into practice in the day. Well, first you apply impermanence. Every second things are changing. And so when you notice you just broke your special cup and you get upset, of course you remember impermanence. Okay, come on, honey, things have change. When someone doesn't do what you want, you notice your mind, so you control your speech. If you get upset about some bad thing that happens, you think, well, that's karma due to non-virtuous karma. My negative karma just ripened. Aren't I lucky? I've just finished it. So you can apply karma, you can apply bodhicitta, you can apply emptiness, you can apply impermanence. The more you know from the teachings, the more it's like the more you will apply it throughout the day as a practice. And the more you learn, the more you can apply it. That's it. That's the way to live your life. But the essence of it is to make a conscious decision to see your mind every second and catch your nonsense and to control your speech and not harm others. You understand?
Yeah, thank you.
And then when you see happiness, rejoice for other people. If you see something beautiful, rejoice. It's the fruit of your virtue. If something good happens, that's the fruit of my virtue. Delight that you created it. Don't just think, oh, aren't I lucky? There's a lot. Every second you can be applying karma. When you see all the suffering, when you see all the wars and the dramas, be careful not to be angry with one group and that kind of thing, and observe, well, that's due to karma, and you have compassion. The more you study, the more rich your tools are that you can apply every day. Do you understand?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Good, wonderful, well done. Thank you so much. What else, people? So, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I totally fail. Every single module I fail completely. I think it's why you've got to read these course notes, because that's when you learn everything. But I'm trying to get the big picture here, the constant big picture. But on the other hand, nevertheless, we need boosting. We need to give ourselves some confidence, So because we are creatures of habit and form, we need to have a structure. It's important. But once we know what we want to, so once you know what's behind the practices, what the benefit of the practices is. So on a simple level, let's say you're feeling really hopeless and depressed one day, then if you know that, for example, the Tara practice, you could do Tara meditation. You'd learn that. It's very uplifting because she's representation. If you know these practices, if you don't know, then obviously you can't do them. But for example, she's the Buddha who's very much to do with success and optimism and courage and cutting through the obstacles. So when you do that practice and you say that mantra, you can feel optimistic. If you're feeling very angry, you can do some Chenrezig, some compassion mantra. Even just the mantra you can do is so powerful. It's an antidote. If you're feeling a bit sick and miserable and negative, a bit sort of not very intelligent, you can do the Manjushri mantra, which is for wisdom. So you can pick and choose your practices. If if you're feeling like if you really feel like you need to create more virtue with your body, you can do some prostrations. You can make more offerings one day. You can do more concentrating on your breath if your mind is really scattered. You can do this. You can start to choose your practices because they're all like mental medicines. They've all got their own particular function. And the more you become familiar with them, the more you can pick and choose. But it's good to have the structure. That for me is absolutely vital to have that morning. For me, from the morning one is so beneficial. Like the way I told you about my practice. It's so beneficial to start the day. And then, of course, if you want to do more sessions throughout the day, that's up to you. Even if you do a 5 minutes, sit down in a chair for 5 minutes and watch your breath. That's really good discipline. Instead of just being caught up in the drama of the day, you can do a session whenever you feel like it. And no one has to know. They just think you're sitting there quietly and you're sitting there saying a mantra. And it's good to do that, to take time, especially if your life's really berserk, Go to the toilet, lock the door, and do a little practice. These are really helpful things to do. And then to finish the day with the purification practice. I mean, you can do it so simply. You can do it in 5 minutes. You can do it really long. You can take an hour to do it. It's up to you. But to engage in those 4 steps is so beneficial at the end of the day. And it really makes your mind happy because we carry so much junk throughout the day, don't we? We get angry, we get guilty, we don't deal with our mind most of the time. So by the end of the day, we wonder why we're exhausted. So to do the 4 opponent powers and to regret, just think of the things where I fought with my mother at 11 o'clock and I kicked the dog at 2 o'clock and I shouted at the driver at 4 o'clock. And then you get guilty and you build it all up and you build it all up. You got to kind of throw it all off, So the last day practice is really helpful to do that one. The first step, regret. You think of the dumb things you've done and you really regret because you're sick of this suffering. It's for your sake. Then you have compassion and take refuge. Then you do the little practice and a few mantras, and then you make some decisions to change. It's a really beneficial practice psychologically. And you can, as Lama Yeshe says, you can go to bed with a happy mind. I don't know, you people. I'm a complete failure. You have to ask me.
Venerable, any chance you may lead us in a Vajrasattva?
I thought I did that one week already, didn't I? Well, I led something else, didn't I?
Yeah, you've led something else.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure, we can do that then. We can do that now if you like. We've got 20 minutes. I can finish the session with it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions, people? Okay, so let's just do the purification. If you haven't done it before, just relax, listen to it. If you have done it before, you'll be familiar. But get the idea. I'll lead it very casually. I like to do it very casually so you get the meaning psychologically, not just think of it as ritual and religion, It's a really powerful practice, just for your own sake. So the 4 R's. The first is regret. The second is reliance. The third is the remedy. And the 4th is resolve. So the first one is, is regret, is acknowledging. So if let's say maybe at the end of your day, maybe it's the beginning of your day, or it's the middle, like my day, it's the middle of my day. You think of, anything you've done today. First of all, thinking you've done today with your body and speech that have harmed others. You're a bit mean to somebody with your mouth. You badmouth someone, you screamed at the driver. Maybe with your, especially our speech, I think. Anything today, anything recently you're carrying around as a burden, you fought with somebody, shouted, abused your mum, badmouthed somebody, badmouth the politicians, it's very common. Whatever you've done, just even think of your speech, today, yesterday, recently, to harm sentient beings. So regret is solely for your own sake. We don't get this properly in our culture. We think it means guilt. Oh, I kicked the dog, I'm a bad person. Or we think I shouldn't have done that. That's totally useless thought. You're acknowledging I did do that. I did kick the dog. I did shout at the neighbor. I did abuse my mother. I did do this. I did whatever I did that you can remember. You did. And you say, you know, you're talking to yourself. I regret having done that. And you've got to say because I don't want this suffering to continue for me. I don't want that habit. It makes me feel awful. And I don't want the karmic seeds that I planted to ripen as my suffering. No way. Of course I don't. Because everything I think and do and say will ripen in the future. And I don't want suffering. I'm sick of suffering. This is the fundamentals of karma. You've got to recognize we create our future suffering and we create our future happiness. We are the creators of our present suffering. We are the creators of our present happiness. So based on that, you of course would regret having done something that will ripen as future suffering for you. You don't want it. It's like you're going to get diabetes, so you regret the sugar. Of course you do. Like that. I regret. So then you can think things in this life that you kind of, stuff like anything. I always think about the abortion I had when I was 23. I often talk about that. So I regret having done that. Why? I say to myself, why? Because at the time that's occurred to me to have an abortion. I didn't think I was murdering somebody. I didn't think like that. I didn't particularly want to harm anyone. It was just this strong imprint in my mind due to the karma I had with this baby in my womb to have an abortion. So I regret that now because I didn't know then the consequences of it, because it was a human being came to my womb. I asked doctors and nurses to do it for me. They did. So I created karma to ask them to help kill this little sentient being who came to my womb. This is very common for us women to do this. So I regret that because I don't want the future suffering to come to me. I don't want to get killed. I don't want to have a tendency to kill. I don't want that. No way. So I regret it for my sake. Whatever actions you've done, the stealing, the cheating on partners, killing, maybe in this life we've killed our pets, we've killed the roaches, we've killed the rats. And we think, at the time my mind was thinking a certain thing. I had ignorance about karma. I didn't think I was doing anything negative. I didn't think there'd be consequences to me of these actions. We don't think like that in our culture. But I sowed seeds in my mind, didn't I, when I did those actions? So I don't want those to ripen. I don't want to get killed. I don't want to be stolen from. I don't want to be bad-mouthed. I don't want people to cheat on me. This is clear. So for this reason, I regret from the depths of my heart having done these actions, because I don't want these karmic seeds to ripen in the future as my suffering. Then think, whatever I've done since beginningless time, that I don't remember, of course, from countless past lives, when I was a child, when I was, all through this life, all the things I've done that have harmed others that I have no memory of. They all sowed seeds in my mind automatically. They all program my mind. Well, I don't want them to ripen. I'm sick of suffering. So I regret them from the depths of my heart because I don't want future suffering. All the past life things too. Of course I regret. I don't want future suffering. This is the point about karma and regret. So my sake. I don't want future suffering. I'm sick of suffering. So whom can I turn to? Next step, second one, reliance. It's got two parts. First part is, whom can I turn to? Who's my doctor? So if we're Christian or Muslim, the second step would be who can forgive me? There's a major difference in Buddhism. The second step, if I'm a Christian, of course, I would turn to God and beg God to forgive me, because forgiveness is what purifies us if we're Christians and Muslims. This is a crucial point, but this is not the Buddhist view. Buddha is a nice person. Of course, he'll forgive you, but that's not what purifies you. For Buddha, that's like asking your doctor to forgive you for smoking and that forgiveness purifies your cancer. No, Buddha doesn't have that power. He's not a creator. He's a mentor. He's more like a doctor. So you turn to that doctor, you rely upon the Buddha. So we visualize above our head, if we're familiar with the Buddha in the form of Vajrasattva, the Bodhisattva style. If you don't know it, don't worry, just visualize the Buddha above your head, facing the same way as you, light body, there's energy above your crown. If you have a spiritual mentor, you think it's their mind manifesting as the Buddha for your benefit. So just be sort of delighted. You found a Buddha, found a person as a doctor whose methods we as Buddhists are using to help us purify our own mind. We create the negative karma, so we must change it. Not Buddha. He doesn't do it. It's not his job. That's the major difference between the Buddhist approach and the creator approaches. So we're delighted to have a doctor whose medicine we can use to purify ourselves. That's like the concept of refuge. Now, the second part is now where we have compassion for the people we've harmed. The first one, regret, is like compassion for ourselves. Now we regret for the sake of those we've harmed. The baby I aborted, the fish we killed, the pets we killed, the boyfriend we cheated on, the people we badmouthed behind their backs, the people we've harmed, all the sentient beings we've killed and harmed and stolen from all over countless lives, think like this, must now purify for their sake, must have compassion for the sentient beings I've harmed. And now if we can, have compassion for those who have harmed us. If you can't go there, don't go there. If you can, then go there. We've all been harmed, terribly sometimes. So if you can think, why would I have compassion for the people who harm me? Because they will suffer in the future terribly from the karma they created by harming me. This is the real basis of compassion for all sentient beings, because we all create our own suffering as well as our own happiness. So it's all the suffering of sentient beings. We have such compassion for all of them. Those who harm me, those who I have harmed. I must purify for their sake as well as my own. So now with third step, the remedy. So we'll just do a simple little visualization. And remember your mind. You know, we think, oh, it's just visualization. What good is that? Well, it's your mind imagining purifying. Well, as Lama Yeshe says, the mind is what causes suffering by creating negativity. Also, the mind will purify it by creating positivity. It's your mind that does it. We're visualizing the Buddha, but we are doing the work. It's our mind doing the job. That's the main thing to think. So visualize nectar coming down from Lama Bodhisattva, from his heart, entering our crown, filling us completely. And we imagine all the karmic imprints from all the actions we've done with our body, speech, and mind to harm ourselves and sentient beings since beginningless time is totally purified. And all this forces out all these imprints in our mind like filthy liquid disappearing into space, full of this blissful white nectar, purifying all the actions, negative actions of our body, speech, and mind. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Diro Me Bhava Sudoshayo Me Bhava Suboshayo Me Bhava Anorakta Me Bhava Sarvasiddhi Me Prayatsa Savakama Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tatagata Vajramame Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasama Sattva Ahung Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Diro Me Bhava Sudoshayo Me Bhava Suboshayo Me Bhava Anorakta Me Bhava Sarvasiddhi Me Prayatsa Savakama Sutsame Siddham Shriyam Kuru Hung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tatagata Vajramame Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasama Sattva Ahung Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Diro Me Bhava Sudoshayo Me Bhava Suboshayo Me Bhava Anorakta Me Bhava Sarvasiddhi Me Prayatsa Savakama Sutsame Siddham Shriyam Kuru Hung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tatagata Vajramame Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasama Sattva Ahung Pe full of this blissful nectar. Imagine totally purified. And the fourth step is this, the resolve, the decision to change. So, let's say you've taken vows. So you're going to reiterate, I will never kill. I will never lie. I will never steal. I will never cheat on my partners. I will never take intoxicants. Whatever vows you've taken. And every day you say them like this, you're strengthening them. It's like doing push-ups every day. You keep getting better at it. And if you haven't taken these vows and you think, well, maybe one day I'd like to take the vows, I'll do my best not to kill, steal, lie. And then your old habits, your rubbish old habits. You can't say, I'll never badmouth my boyfriend again if it's your oldest habit. So you make decisions, you make certain decisions. You don't lie to yourself. You make certain decisions now privately, certain old habits of your body and speech and of your mind that you think you're going to try and make an effort to do your best to try and change. Be very humble with yourself, but very confident. Decide, okay, maybe for 24 hours, I won't badmouth my boyfriend. And this is a powerful one. For 24 hours, I won't talk bad about politicians. We think it doesn't matter saying bad things about people when they're not there. We love doing that one. Look at the damage it does to us. Look at the harm it does to our minds. So these types of things you can happily say, okay, for 1 hour, for 10 hours, for 24 hours, I will not say one negative word. This is a stupendous decision to make, but be serious about it, what you can accomplish. Maybe you get depressed easily. Well, try and watch it. I'll try not to get depressed totally all the time. Maybe you get jealous easily. You watch your mind like a hawk and, not get jealous, catch it, You make some decisions. And then when you make a decision, we all know we'll try and keep it. So talk to yourself, make some decisions about what you're going to try and do for the rest of the day or for next week or whatever you think. Because when you decide something, that's when you do it. Everything exists on the tip of the wish. And then you imagine Vajrasattva very happily dissolves into light and absorbs through your crown very happily. And just for a minute, you just kind of sit there and relax. No thoughts for a moment, just relax. Very spacious. Relax. No thoughts. And then we just delight. We've done this little practice. We've listened to the teachings, all these thoughts that have gone in, these seeds we've planted, none go astray. So we nourish these seeds from this moment forward. We keep moving forward one step at a time, trying to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, being grounded, being optimistic, understanding the method, the reasons for these things, and a little bit of practice every day, never giving up, be delighted. Jangchod, Semchog Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam, Ke Guchi, Ke Panyampa, Me Payang, Gong Ne Gondu, Pelvashog. Still 5 minutes. Any question? I should have not done that yet, but never mind. Any questions from that? Otherwise, we're ready to go. People, any questions? Nothing? Well, that'll do. And please read the course notes. You've got to read Kendall's teachings. They're really excellent. I just rabbit on about nothing. I'm sorry. All right, people.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you for one.
Thank you, darlings. Thank you, Lars. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Keep moving. Keep moving.
Thank you, Venerable Ruby.
Thank
Thank
you very much.
Thank you, Val. I've got your
Thank
cut.
you, Venerable.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Much love.
Thank you.
Thank you, people. Bye, darlings. And I'll put those things about prostrations. I'll give it. And you remind me, Tara, please remind me to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.